It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Hello to the world. How are you guys doing this evening, the world? There's like 50 people here, 100 people here. I don't know if it's quite the world, but I hope that you guys are doing well. I'm doing pretty good over here. It's definitely wishful thinking that summer's winding down. I was kind of saying in the chat right now that it's still ridiculously warm out here in Southern California. I was in our local mountains, and it was over 100 degrees this weekend. Well, not my local mountains. I was in the mountains of San Diego. And it was over 100 degrees this week, and it's nuts. Usually in the mountains it's cooler, but I guess not over there. In my house, let's see, today is about 95 degrees, and it'll probably be in the 90s-ish, high 80s, mid to upper 90s until the end of October. November-ish is when it typically starts to cool down, but sometimes we can have warm summer or warm winters. You know, it can be 90 degrees at Christmas time sometimes. It just depends. The way this year's been going, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not really warm, because it's just been stupid hot the entire time. I've got like super wishful thinking. I'm drinking hot tea over here, wishing that it was cold, you know, just kind of, I turned the thermostat way down in my house so it's chilly everywhere else. Of course, of all things, I keep saying I'm going to do this, but my air conditioning system at my house sucks, okay? I'm in like the hottest room, and that's my office. So I have to turn it to 72, and I'd say it's probably like 76 in my office, and I got a fan running and stuff, and my wife and everybody freezes. They're all upset with me. But hey, it is what it is. One of these days I'll get around to changing my system out and fixing it and stuff, and then I'll probably move once I change it. You know, that's how it works, right? Hopefully everybody's doing good. We are about to have, I don't know where I was going with that, but anyways, work's going good. We're staying pretty steady. I was able to take the weekend off, so it was really nice to be able to get away for the weekend. My kids, we went and did apple picking, which is something we always do at the end of the summer. We have two places local to us where you can go pick apples with the family and stuff. It's kind of a rare thing here in California. There's only a few areas where the apples can grow very well, usually up in the mountains. But it was nice to get away and relax with the family and just have a nice, relaxing weekend. I need more of those. It's definitely been a hectic summer, to say the least. So as usual, welcome to the stream, guys. Everybody that's in the chat, if you guys are new here, my name is Chris. I'm assuming you would know my name if you're watching this stream, but if you don't, it's okay. My name is Chris, and I'm an HVACR service technician here in Southern California. I make these videos on YouTube and do these live streams just to kind of share the little bit of knowledge that I have. So if you guys have questions or things that you want me to cover in the chat, do me a favor and put your questions or your comments in caps lock. It helps myself to see them a little bit better. And I do see a lot of questions. Wendell, I will get to that question. I have it on my list of stuff to talk about tonight. We'll get to it. And but I kind of wanted to start this off by addressing a few things. I do this YouTube stuff as just kind of a side hobby. It really just started as something fun, just sharing videos with my employees. I made it public, and it was just something fun. It's quickly escalated into something I never expected it to turning into. I've got consistent schedules. I release 2 videos a week, 1 live stream a week. You know, actually 2 live streams if you count the overtime live stream on Friday nights. But I probably don't. I know I don't treat this platform, this social media thing that I have, like other people would. Okay. I've always been a very interesting person that kind of does things my way. Okay. So I want to make it clear that while I'm not judging anybody else's channels, not judging the way that other people do theirs, I just like to do things my way. Okay. I'm not into, grabbing people's attention for no silly reason and stuff. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, you know, it's very nice, and I appreciate everybody's feedback. I get a lot of emails of people telling me how I can improve. You know, if I change this, I can get more views and do this and do that. And while, of course, I love getting more views on my videos and stuff like that, I don't like to have to think too hard about YouTube. I enjoy it, but I don't want it to ever become something that is miserable for me. Okay. There's been times when it's creeped up and I've had to kind of change my mentality and the way that I do things because it was starting to get out of hand. But I still enjoy it, and I'm going to continue to do these videos, but you know, I can't go too crazy. I have all kinds of ideas about other channels and things I want to start. And of course I have the tools channel and stuff like that. And I don't get to pay as much attention to those. As things start to slow down, I'll be able to focus on some more things, but my business, my air conditioning and refrigeration business comes first. The videos come second. Actually, I should say my family comes first. My service company comes second, and then the videos come third. So, you know, with that being said, I kind of beat to the tune of my own drum when it comes to these videos and stuff. And I'm not judging any other channels or any other creators for the ways that they do things. So be it. Some people, the cool thing about YouTube is you have the freedom to express yourself however you want to, right? So I put these videos out there and I enjoy it and I have fun with it. And, you know, while I'm sure, you know, I could pay people to edit my videos and I could pay people to do thumbnails and titles and different things like that, it's just not really my style per se. You know, I just like to put stuff out there, and you know, my style of videos certainly isn't the most polished, but it just is what it is. It's easy for me. I just edit, cut, paste, click, you know, and upload and call it a day. And you know, sometimes we have videos when I'm done and I look at it and it's like, wow, this turned out really well. And then sometimes I'll make a video and it's like, oh yeah, that didn't turn out so good, but it is what it is. You know, I really try not to try too hard, if that makes sense. Okay. So for those that have been emailing me and commenting about that stuff, that's why I kind of do it this way. And while I appreciate all the feedback, I love feedback from you guys. I try to read all the comments, and I do have to admit right now that the comments have gotten to a level that I can't even keep up with them anymore. And I look and go through my phone nightly. I just can't keep up with all the comments. So I apologize if I don't get to every single one and don't respond to every single one. I've been trying, but it's a struggle when you're super busy at work. So I'm going to mark that one off my list because I wanted to cover that. And then I also want to talk about, there's something else that I wanted to talk about here. There we go right now. So speaking of being so crazy as I am at work and stuff, I've been commenting in my videos that, you know, I can't keep up with the workload. I'm super busy. It's calming down a little bit because the hype, the big time slam of the super busy summer is kind of tapering off. I mean, we're still busy. We still have a lot of work that we haven't I mean, I still have installs. I have equipment sitting in my shop from 3-4 months ago that I just can't get to yet because the service calls just keep coming. Now, with that being said, part of the reason is that I'm understaffed, okay? And I get a lot of comments and emails of people saying, you know, you need to raise your prices. Like, raise my prices and I'll thin out the customers. Hire more employees, okay? I run my business kind of how I did the YouTube channel. I do it my way, okay? Not necessarily the same way that everybody else does it. I have done this in the past where I hire employees out of desperation, and I'm never going to do that again, okay? I would rather struggle and be miserable than hire employees out of desperation because it just leads to a toxic work environment, okay? I prefer to hire the perfect employee and or train apprentices to become the perfect employee. So I'm currently working on training an apprentice right now. He's doing really good, but it's going to take some time. With that being said, you know, it makes me extra busy. I have to do a lot of work. It is what it is, you know, and I'm not going to raise my rates to try to scare away customers. I have a core group of customers that I really like working for, and I want to make them happy. We have a great partnership, and I want to continue that partnership, okay? So I don't want to gouge any of my customers. I don't want to raise the rates just because it's summertime. I mean, my rates are my rates, and I get to what I can get to. Over the years, I've gotten better at saying no. You know, when, for instance, customers call me and say it's an emergency, they're reaching coolers down and they need me to come out at 6 o'clock on a Friday night. No, that's not going to happen. You know, I can't get to that kind of stuff. So I'll politely tell them, you know what, that's not a priority. And I will offer them, you know, Saturday service. I'll come out Saturday, but it's still going to be overtime. You know, is that something you really want? Or even sometimes I'll just tell them, no, I don't have time to come out on Saturday. We'll see you guys Monday or Tuesday. You know, when it's not an emergency. But for me and my business, the way that I prioritize my customers, walk-in freezers, walk-in coolers, entire air conditioning systems, and ice machines. Ice machines kind of are emergencies. Okay, that stuff is kind of emergencies, and it just depends. If I have a restaurant that has 10 air conditioners and, you know, they have a 5-ton down, then I'm probably going to tell them just to wait, you know, or I'll get to it when I can. But walk-in freezers and walk-in coolers definitely take priority, and that's just the way that we run things. Okay, let's look at the chat here and see what I got going on in here. What do I use for putting my videos together for YouTube, Mark? Well, I film my videos with my phone. Nothing too crazy, okay? I've gone through a couple different phones. Currently, I think this is a Galaxy S21 Plus. I think that's what it is. It's not the Ultra because that was way too big. So it's an S21 Plus. I have the S20. The S20's microphone sucked, by the way, so I'd never use that really for filming. And my favorite, actually, this one is a good contender, the S21 Plus, but the S10 was the phone that I filmed on for a good 2 years probably. And then before that, it was Galaxy Notes and stuff. So I've always filmed on my phone. Every once in a while, I'll set up a GoPro. As far as editing the videos, the software that I use is called Adobe Premiere Elements. It is not Adobe Premiere Pro, okay? That is the one that you can make legit movies with. Too complicated for me. I don't want to put that much effort into learning it. I can edit on it. It just takes me forever, and I always have to watch tutorials and stuff. Adobe Premiere Elements is a stripped down version. That's what I use. It's super easy, runs on my computer, and it's a great program. So that's what I use to edit them. So let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Hello to everybody, right? Miguel's from San Dimas. Right on, bud. How you doing, man? Let's see. Yeah, definitely. Let me see what else. I'm looking in the chat to see what I'm missing here. Yeah, if you guys haven't already, please smash the like button. It definitely helps out the stream, okay? No, I don't read Dan Holohan's book. If I was to secretly read a book and, you know, before I go to bed, it's going to be Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians by Dick Wars. That would be the book that I would read before I go to bed. And I got to say thank you. I know Dick doesn't watch my streams, but I got to give him props because he gave me kind of a shout out in his new book. I think it's volume 4, maybe volume 3 or something like that. Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians. Like in the foreword, he mentioned my name, which was really nice of him. Him and I have communicated back and forth, and I was lucky enough to meet Mr. Dick Wers about 2 years ago at the Kalos Training Symposium out in Florida. So that was really neat. Really nice guy. Someone that I look up to for sure. So let's see what else. No, Trailmaster, I'm not an iPhone kind of a person. Jason Johnson has the S21 Ultra. Yeah, that one was just a little bit too big for me. So let me get to my list of things to talk about. And there was something else. Oh, another thing I definitely want to address. Let me find it on my list right now. So with that being said, I was kind of talking about earlier about how busy I am. It is what it is. I'm a busy kind of a person. I'm a very stressed out person in general. I kind of create my own stress when it comes to things. It's just, it is what it is. That's how I operate. I know it's not healthy, but it's just how I've always been. I have seen a few comments come through about why I'm so upset with customers when it comes to some of these emergency service calls. And some people in the comments have made some very valid points saying that if I'm charging my customers, I don't have the right, or, there's no point in being upset about it because I'm getting paid for it, that kind of stuff. I agree a little bit with those statements, but also at the same time, I am human. And I have to say that the comments that I see in the chat and emails and on YouTube comments telling me that, I need to not be upset with my customers and just be happy that I have work. I'm very thankful that I have work. And the fact that those people have said that in the comments kind of surprises me, because they apparently don't watch my videos enough to see, especially in the closing words too. If you guys don't already, you definitely need to watch the closing words on my videos, because while I may vent frustrations and stuff, I usually address it in the closing words. Okay. And I think it's important that we don't suppress our frustrations, right? So, if I'm angry because I got a service call, like, I need to get that out. Now, am I going to get it out on the customer? Am I going to yell at the customer? No, of course not. Okay. I may have a discussion with the customer about, hey, I keep having, like in the situation of my recent video, the walk-in freezer, I went out there like 3 times. And I mean, it's always been a frustration because the customer was leaving the door open, and it was starting to get ridiculous because they call me out at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I have to stop what I'm doing, get out of bed, go over there to defrost the walk-in freezer because they're leaving the door open. I'm justifiably frustrated when that happens. Okay. But I will tell the customer, hey, you know what, this is getting a bit ridiculous. We need to figure this out. You guys got to do something because I can't keep coming out here. That's the discussion that I had with the customer. But at the same time, like, it's okay for me, the way that I see it, it's okay for me to be frustrated. I mean, suppressing our emotions and anger and frustration is what causes problems. And if you've watched any of my videos, the HVACR Life series, my wife and I also just recorded another one. So once I get editing on that, that'll be coming out hopefully in the next couple weeks. But when it comes to I have anger issues, and when it comes to them, what I've realized, the solution to majority of my anger is to talk about it and let it out. Instead of bottling it up. If I just hold it in because I'm angry and just keep it in, eventually I'm going to blow up. And majority of the time, I'm never going to blow up on a customer. It's going to be on someone close to me, and that's not right. So I have to get that stuff out. Unfortunately, you guys are kind of like my therapy, because I will say stuff in the videos, this is frustrating. It is what it is. But at the same time, I'm also trying to show the real stuff that's happening. Okay. I get frustrated. I get confused. I make mistakes. I'm human, guys. It's so important for us to be honest about that kind of stuff, in my opinion. Okay. Of course, I'm not a therapist or anything like that, but it's so important to be honest and to be truthful. And, for me, it helps to talk to my friends, talk to my wife, and express that stuff. Holding that stuff in is definitely a no-go. Okay. So let me see what else we got going on in the chat. What am I missing here? What do we have? All right. Nothing there. I'm seeing my own stuff. So how did Oh, okay. So Neil C. Vids, how did replacing the equipment stop them from leaving the door open? Well, Neil, in that video, what actually happened was the reason why they were leaving the door open, it wasn't that they were leaving it open. It was that they were in and out consistently because their stand-up reach-in freezer in the cook's line was broken, and the customer chose to order a new one on their own. Okay, so they ordered their own equipment, and because of the equipment shortages and all that kind of stuff, it took them about a month and a half to get a new freezer, whereas normally it would take them like a week or two. So in that month and a half, they were using their walk-in freezer as a reach-in cooler. So whenever they needed French fries for the walk-in freezer, or for the fryers, to cook for a customer, boom, they were into the walk-in freezer grabbing French fries. They had nowhere to put the frozen food. Normally they would take it from the walk-in freezer, put it into the reach-in freezer, and then grab from there, but the reach-in freezer was down. So how did replacing the equipment solve their problem? Replacing the equipment, there's 2 parts to that, okay? Number one, if you watch the equipment replacement video, Okay. I had mentioned something in there when I was talking about the load calculation. What I actually found was that the existing equipment was undersized for the load. Okay. So that's strike number one. The second part, they got a freezer, right? They got a new freezer to replace that, so they weren't in and out of the walk-in freezer anymore. So replacing the equipment, I put in properly sized equipment that was adequate and capable of bringing the box down to temperature within about a half an hour to 45 minutes from, nothing being in there basically. So replacing the equipment didn't necessarily solve their problem. The habits of them being in and out of the box needed to be solved, and that was because they were waiting for their reach-in freezer. The customer that I work for is very proactive, and they don't like, they actually will, I'll give them an invoice and say, hey, we had to make these repairs on this walk-in freezer, and I'll get an email from the customer. It'll be fixed, and they'll say, how old is the box? Oh, the equipment's about 15 years old. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get it replaced. Like, they are on top of it about replacing their equipment. So they were the ones that, in talking with them, they're like, yeah, let's get it replaced, because they like to have newer equipment at their stores, and they find that to be a valuable thing for them. So, they basically chose to go ahead and replace that equipment. Let me see what else we got in here. Let me mark that one off my list, because I had that on my list to talk about. So with that being said, there we go. And let me go ahead and get to the chat. What else do we got going on here? Let's see. Brandon, you said you do aerospace in the Air Force. You basically work on generators, ACs for jets. You have your universal EPA cert, and you also do electrical work with generators. Right on, Brandon. That's really cool, man. Let me see what else we got. How do I feel about the Zoom lock tool and fittings? You haven't seen a video of me using it besides one. Seth, I have 2 videos using the Zoom Lock Max press fittings from Sporlan. And I think that those press tools, whatever brand you're dealing with, they all have a time and a place. In my situation, they don't make a lot of sense using them on a regular basis in the work that I do. A lot of the work that I do is smaller equipment. Of course, when I make walk-in replacements and stuff like that, sometimes it would be beneficial. But on reach-in coolers and ice machines and things like that, they're not very practical because you can't get them into very tight spots and things like that. But I definitely see a use for them, okay? But I will never stop brazing 100%, and I will never, go to using press fittings 100%. Whenever there's a time and place for them, then I'll use them. But they're a great tool to have in your arsenal to be ready whenever you have equipment to repair. Let's say you're working on a government building that has hot work process. You have to get a hot work permit. You have to shut down things. I've had to do it before working in local government buildings, and it's a nightmare having to, I'm like, I need to braze a dryer, and they're like, yeah, you got to come in on Sunday between these hours. We need to shut down. And it's like, really, just to change a dryer? It's silly. And then they want you to fill out all kinds of paperwork and have a fire watch and all this stuff. In that situation, Zoom Lock Max would be awesome, right? If I had it way back then, it'd be amazing. And if you guys didn't already know, you can get special dryers for the Zoom Lock Max. They don't have a swaged fitting on them. They just have a straight piece of copper coming out of them, and they have extended ends, so you can just put a Zoom Lock Max coupling on it. Boom, dryers change. So I definitely think that the press tools are amazing, and they all have a place for use, right? But I'm not going to use them every single time. I know some people that use the press tools all the time, and it benefits their business, So again, if it works for you, then go for it. But I have had good luck and good experience with the Zoom Lock Max tool. I've got a system out there that I think is going on 2 years. I think just about 2 years, and I haven't really had any issues. The key to using the Zoom Lock Max is the prep, okay? It's not just to slap it on there and crimp it. You have to sand the pipe. You have to inspect the pipe. Is there any deep gouges in that? Then you need to sand it with a nut. So I'll usually sand it with a 180 grit sandpaper, and then I'll take an abrasive Scotch-Brite pad and polish it out. And then you got to deburr the inside, deburr the outside, put the fitting on, mark it, press it. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not as easy as people think it is. Brandon, thank you so very much for that super chat. I really, really appreciate it. Let's see. You said, if I remember your last statement, is that something you'd look for in a new apprentice? You're looking to become an HVAC technician for an HVAC company. Brandon, forgive me. Make sure you post it in caps lock so I see it again, but I don't remember the last thing that you said as far as you're looking for in an apprentice. I will definitely try to answer it. So make sure you You say it again because I don't remember what it is. But I mean, I can just talk about that because I don't know exactly what it is that you said. But what am I looking for in an apprentice? I can give you that criteria right now. So I'm currently training an apprentice right now. And what I'm looking for when I was going to hire him is I'm looking for someone that's interested in getting in the trade. I'm not going to beg him to come work for me. Okay. I want him to want to come work for me. Okay. The person that I actually hired actually turned out to be a good fit. Long story short, I actually knew people. It's a small world. Let's just say that. Okay. So, but when I'm looking through an apprentice, I'm looking for someone that's eager to learn, someone that is teachable, someone that isn't afraid to get dirty, someone that isn't afraid to work hard. Okay. And that'll show up to work on time every single day. Okay. Well, when they're expected to. With that, I can build an apprentice from that, or I can attempt to build an apprentice from that, as long as you have those qualities, and then you can work your way up. Okay. All right. So I'm going to look to my list of things to talk about. Dominic is from New Zealand, and he had sent me an email, and he is going to be replacing the heat pump in his house. And he was just kind of curious about which refrigerant he should look into. And obviously he's going to have someone do it for him, but he was curious about, he notices that there's systems in New Zealand that contain R410A and R32, and he was curious about my opinions between the two. Okay. So R32 is a new, let's see, it's a, A2L refrigerant. It is a mildly flammable refrigerant. Okay. And what's interesting is there's a lot of people that are afraid of R32, but what you don't realize is we've all been working with R32 for many, many years. R32 is one of the main components of R410A. Okay. But it's mixed with so many other refrigerants in 410A that it's not as flammable as if you use R32 by itself. Okay. So now R32 is becoming a popular refrigerant. They're using it in a lot of equipment. It's being brought into the United States just right now. I think I saw a recent post where Daikin just had someone on my Facebook feed install the first R32 mini split or something like that in the States. So it's coming. It's going to be here. The important thing, so to answer your question, Dominic, is I would probably go with R32, okay, because 410 is being phased out. I don't know how New Zealand works, but I imagine just like the rest of the world, you guys are probably ahead of the United States as far as your environmentally friendly changes and stuff, because we seem to lag behind everybody else. But with the phase out of 410A, I would definitely go to R32. Just understand that with R32, there's some extra precautions we need to take. We need to have specialized equipment to work with it. Now, it's not as crazy as working with hydrocarbon refrigerants like R290 and isobutane, but you definitely need to be careful working with these A2L refrigerants. There is special recovery machines and vacuum pumps that need to be certified to work with A2Ls. Okay. Again, that's a mildly flammable refrigerant. The same precautions as if you were working with hydrocarbons, which again are R290 and isobutane. R290 being unodorized propane, and then isobutane. I can't remember the ASHRAE number for isobutane right now for some reason, but R600, that's what it is. But with R290 and R600, they are extremely flammable and they're unodorized. So you have to make sure that you purge with nitrogen before you braise and things like that. That is also the same for these A2L refrigerants like R32. You definitely want to purge and sweep the system with nitrogen before you take your torches and open it up. For instance, if you guys watched my recent video, and let's go ahead and address this too. Let me mark this one off. Where's my, I had discuss. I already have that on there. Discuss. I'm looking through my list. There we go right there. So in my recent video working on the ice machine, I had my apprentice put on the nitrogen while I was on the other side of the machine, and I forgot to tell him to take the low side hose off. So he put the nitrogen on, he put it on the braze feature, which is just going to push it through at a very, very small flow rate. And I was going to braze everything in. So I went to go unsweat the dryer, and poof, it blew out. Now, I did have it on a brazing montage, so you guys didn't see it in real time. You guys kind of saw it at 50%, or it was sped up 50%. But it was a little bit scary when that popped, because I heard a noise. It didn't really warn me too much, but I was unsweating the dryer and it just went whoof, and a little flame came out. And that was because we did not take the low side hose off. So we put the nitrogen in and we were feeding it in on the high side of the service gauges, right? And we were supposed to take the low side hose off so that way that nitrogen had a place to vent into the atmosphere, because you just want to purge it through the system. You don't want to pressurize the system with it. So in that situation, if that was a hydrocarbon refrigerant in that situation, there would have been a fireball coming out of that unit, okay? With that being said, too, I did have a few questions from people. Why did I try to sweat that dryer out? Why didn't I cut it out? It's just a bad habit of mine, okay? I rarely ever cut dryers out, because most of the time when you cut them out, you're working in such tight spaces that it becomes a problem. So there's a lot of people out there telling me, they'll email me and comment about, you know, sweating a dryer out. I'm going to release all the moisture back in the system. While I agree there's some possibilities of that, I don't think it's as critical as people think it is, but I could be wrong on that, okay? I've just always done that for the most part. You know, when I can, I'll try to cut a dryer out, but it's not first instinct for me, so I usually sweat it out. It is what it is. I'm not perfect. Let's see what else we got in here. I already answered that one. Let me see. What did I miss? I'm looking through this. What do I think about household refrigerators swapping to R600? It's really not that big of a deal. The household refrigerators going to the hydrocarbon refrigerants. The one thing I will say that kind of sucks about household refrigerators going to it is it's not very easy for a single technician to get a household refrigerator outside. In a perfect world, in a house, I would kind of like to remove that from the house to work on it. I realize it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's just a lot nicer to be able to be in the customer's garage working on their refrigerator than sitting on their kitchen floor with a towel draped out and, you know, windows open because you're brazing in a hydrocarbon refrigerant. That's kind of a bummer in that sense. And I realize you can run hoses outside and stuff, but there's still the potential of a little bit of a flame out working in a house. That's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. You know, there's not really anything we can do much about it. Let's see what else we got in here. Would I ever consider working for a lab facilities maintenance? I have done some lab work in a hospital setting in the past. The biggest problem with my company doing lab work is that we would work on very, very sensitive equipment, oftentimes that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in vaccines and different things like that in them, if not into the millions when it comes to chemotherapy medicines and stuff like that. I think I worked on one time that had over $1 million in chemotherapy meds in it. And, you know, it's a little nerve wracking. So it became a problem working on the medical grade refrigeration because I felt that I was the only person qualified at the time. So I'd have to always be the technician that went out there, which basically made it, at the time, I had several technicians working for me, but it just made it frustrating because I was the one that always had to go and work on that equipment. So I don't think I would do that again. I don't know if that's what you were asking, or were you asking if I would become a facilities, like an in-house facilities guy? I don't know what you mean by that, bud. Give me some context. If I don't see your response, send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. We can talk a little bit more. Let me see what else we got going on in here. What did I miss? Smash the thumbs up button, guys. It definitely helps out the stream, okay? No, I don't mean liberals, Laska. All right, so we answered Dominic's question. Seth had emailed me a question. He has a really good question. Seth is about to get out of the military. Thank you for your service, Seth. And Seth wants to know what certifications and training would stand out the best for him as he wants to get into HVAC. Now, he already does some HVAC work in the military, okay? So he had told me that he has certain certifications already. So Seth, in your situation, honestly, with the certifications that you already have, because you already do some type of HVAC work in the military, now things will be a little bit different because typically, from my understanding, majority of the people in the military doing HVAC and refrigeration work, they're consistently working on the same type of equipment all the time. So it's not a variety of equipment. So there definitely will be a little bit of a learning curve, but the concepts are still the same. So with what you already have for your certification, Seth, I think you're probably pretty good. I would definitely try to take advantage of the GI Bill if you can, for, you know, any more education if possible. Now, for those of you that are in the military and you want to get into HVAC, of course, your best bet is to take advantage of the GI Bill, right? And have the GI Bill help you with your education. You can go to trade schools and different things like that. That's definitely a good thing. In a perfect world, if a service technician can go to trade school full time, if they're going to do that, right? Go to trade school full time, then get into the trade. That would be the best. The second best is to take night college classes and work during the day, then go to night school, but it's going to take a little bit longer. But Seth, you shouldn't have a problem getting a job with your certifications already. And then just understand though, that there's going to be a learning curve and you're going to have to work your way up. But I think that your existing certifications are perfect, bud. You should be good to go. If I didn't answer your question, feel free to send me an email. The 98 DeVille, thank you so very much for that super chat, bud. So your question is, Green Heck versus Captivair for hoods. Which one is better than the other? Well, 98 DeVille, are you talking about the actual exhaust hood or the exhaust fan? I would have to say that I think I would lean more towards Green Heck for both as far as the actual exhaust hood and the exhaust fan. I do a lot of Captivair work too. But I think I would lean more towards the Green Heck side. I've worked on a lot of their equipment. I've worked on a lot of the Captivair equipment, and I think my favorite of the two would probably be Green Heck. Both of them frustrate me at different times. I've got videos being upset at both of the companies. So, but I think I would lean a little towards the Green Heck for sure. Flex Ortiz, you said you currently work for facilities maintenance HVAC in-house. At this point now, would I ever consider not running my own company? Yeah, I've thought about it. I mean, when the stress level is at 100 and everything's going crazy and you can't keep up with the work, there's times that I've thought about going to work for someone else. I've had long discussions with my wife about it, and she's talked me off the ledge and basically told me that in her opinion, I'm going to bring my stress with me wherever I go, whether or not I'm owning my own company or working for someone else. So I've thought about it, but in all reality, I don't think it would be practical for me to go work for someone else. I think I'm just destined to run my own company, kind of, if that makes sense. All right, let's see what else we got going on in here. Seth, for those, oh, sorry, Seth. Yeah, you have plenty of certifications. So I see your comment right there. EPA 608 universal, that's fine. And then you have the automotive one. You're not really going to need that doing, but, preventative maintenance certification, Nate ready to work. I mean, those are all pretty good. I think you're going to have no problem getting picked up by a company. I definitely think that you're going to want to go to school though still. But just understand something, Seth, that just because you go to school doesn't mean you're going to be a service technician right when you leave the school. I mean, you're definitely going to have your foot in the door, but going to trade school or anything like that is just going to be a foot in the door. You're still going to have to learn and work your way up and apprentice and do all that good stuff. But I think you understand that stuff. So, all right, let's see what else we got going on in here. What am I missing? For an old Honeywell thermostat, what does 11N mean after the screen goes blank when turned on cool? Justin, sorry, bud. I have no idea what that means. Maybe someone in the chat might. But yeah, I don't right now. Let's see. And let's see what else we got in here. So someone had brought a point to me about working on the ice machines, and they were reminding me to obviously not touch the clean ice when I'm working in it. And yeah, I agree that there's times that I'll reach in and grab a piece of ice or something like that. I typically don't throw it back into the bin. I'll throw it on the ground. Like I'll grab a piece, try not to touch anything else. It's always best practices whenever you're working around ice machines to be as sanitary as possible, making sure that you're not ever exposing the ice that's going to be consumed by customers with anything, you know, that's bad for it, right? You obviously want to sanitize all the surfaces after you're done working on it. As you're working your way out of the machine, you sanitize everything, you put it back together, you close it up. So I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, and I'm sure I've showed it in videos a few times. So let's see what else in there. So when I want to get back a little bit more to talk about the frustrations that I've shown in my recent videos. Remember that I feel that it's healthy that I express those frustrations. Okay. While some of you may see it as complaining, it is what it is, you know, and I don't mean to offend anybody. Again, I kind of beat to the tune of my own drum and treat my channel the way that I want to treat it. So, if I offend you guys or upset you guys by expressing frustration in the video, I'm sorry, and don't take this the wrong way, but you're free to move on to anywhere else. Okay. One thing that I've said from the beginning, is that I'm going to treat this how I want to treat it. This is, you know, this is my thing, right? And I'm not here to meet anybody's expectations. I'm not here to do anything but to make these videos and share the little bit of knowledge that I have. And I'm just going to do it my way. Okay. So I appreciate the feedback, and and again, I'm still okay with feedback. If you guys see something, I'm always love reading the stuff. Just don't be offended if I don't necessarily implement the ideas or things that you guys have. Okay. So I hope I don't offend anybody with that stuff, but it is what it is. Let's see. I just saw another super chat. Vlad, thank you so very much for that super chat, bud. You guys are amazing with the support that you guys give. You guys always humble me every single time. Have I considered cloning myself? Mark, yeah, I have considered cloning myself. And I would love to do it, but if you watch the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, what is the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he clones himself? Oh no, no, that's not Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's a Michael Keaton movie, isn't it? Multiplicity? I think it is Multiplicity or whatever. He cloned himself and then he found himself. Yeah. There was a bad incident with his wife when he cloned himself. So I'm not going to do that because that would make me angry. You know what I mean? You know where I'm going? You know what I mean, Vern? All right. What's that from? You guys know what that's from? You know what I mean, Vern? All right. I'm going to date myself right there. Brandon Paglias, sorry if I butchered your name. Thank you so very much for that super chat, bud. That is amazing. Let's see. It says, thanks for the help. You nailed all of my questions. Shout out to all your fellow military guys looking to get out and into this trade with you. Right on, Brandon. You guys, this is a great trade. I would imagine. Guys, I was never in the military. I'm envious. I'll tell you guys this. So I think I've said this before, but when I was in high school, I remember deciding that I was going to join the Marine Corps. I took the ASVAB test. I started talking to a recruiter. I think I went to a couple things at my local recruiting office. And I hadn't told my parents one day. And it's kind of funny because the recruiter took it upon himself to go ahead and show up at my house and talk with my dad without telling me he was going to do that. And then I remember my dad got a nice little surprise. My dad wasn't upset. He was just surprised that some dude he opened the door one day and some guy's like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and your son's going to join the Marines. And my dad was like, what? Confused. But anyways, it's kind of interesting how it works. In a weird way, I would never want to change my family or anything like that, right? I want my family, my kids to all still be the same. But I have like a little emptiness inside of me, remembering and kind of regretting not joining the military, not joining the Marine Corps. My brother ended up joining the Marine Corps. I'm very proud of him. He's still in the Marine Corps. But it's always been something that I was a little envious of. At the same time, I've had discussions with my wife about this, and it was probably for the best. And, not to make light of any of the horrible things that happened, but when I would have joined the military, when I would have joined the Marine Corps, would have been right around 2000. So just before 9/11. And we all know how that would have worked out. And while I feel horrible for all the lives lost during that time period, I can't help but think in a weird way, as horrible as this sounds, that I dodged a bullet. But I still have an emptiness, and if that makes sense, I still kind of feel like I'm missing out on something because I didn't join the military. But anyways, it is what it is. Life happens. You move on. Things change. And of course, I never would have wanted to change anything about my family situation in the way that it is right now. And obviously, I think some of that stuff would have changed. But with that being said, I think the military is a great thing. And I think stepping out of the military, HVAC is a great place. Any kind of a trade, I think, is a great place because of the structure. I mean, of course, we don't have the structure that the military has, but the structure that we have typically in the trades, I think it's a great place for a person coming out of the military. And you get to, focus and deal with the kind of stuff that we deal with, the methodical troubleshooting, following proper procedures, doing that stuff. I think this is a great fit for someone from the military, if that makes sense. So, all right, now that I'm rambling as usual, did someone post in here? Ernest P, that's right. Know what I mean, Burn? That is right. Exactly. Let me see what else we got in here. What can cause the Hoshizaki water pump to intermittently short cycle during the freeze cycle? Well, heavy metal guitarist, the new Hoshizaki pumps, I'm trying to think here. There's something about if it's a newer machine, first off, if you're assuming, for some reason, I think that the new Hoshizaki machines cycle the pumps once or twice. during the new freeze cycle? I think they do. There's something about the Hoshizaki pumps. Oh, no, they don't cycle it. They cycle it during the harvest cycle now. That's right. I think they cycle it during the harvest cycle. I have to think about it. I'm remembering something from the back of my mind right now. But assuming that your pump has the right voltage, right? So obviously put a meter on it, check the voltage while it's operating. And when you say short cycle, I'm assuming you mean turn off, then turn back on. Make sure the capacitor is working properly and it's not low. And then also one of the biggest failure points on a Hoshizaki water pump is the cube guide pieces. The little white pieces from the cube guide, they break off, they get sucked into the pump. They're usually stuck in there and they'll cause the pump to seize up. But as far as short cycling, I'm assuming you mean just turning on and off. You might want to make sure you're checking voltage to verify. And if I didn't answer your question enough, feel free to send me an email, bud, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Let's see, multiplicity with Michael Keaton. That's right. Let's see what else we got in here. You have neutral. Okay, so let me see. Why don't I wire? Oh, okay. So Wendell. Yeah. All right. So in my recent video, I made a comment about some of the new AWEF things that they do in new refrigeration equipment for walk-in coolers. And in order to save energy on walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers, they typically have 2-speed evaporator fan motors. So that way, when one speed, when the evaporator is calling for cooling, the fans will operate at full speed. Now let's just talk about the walk-in coolers right now, okay? So in these 2-speed motors, the walk-in coolers, the fans will run on full speed when they have a call for cooling. So when the thermostat is calling, they'll run on full speed. But when the unit is not calling for cooling, they will typically run on low speed, okay? And so the question is, why don't I wire them? So, and this is Wendell that asked this one. Why don't I wire them in a way that they would be tricked into running in full speed when they are in defrost? Wendell, I certainly can, and I actually have done that before. I don't think I have it shown in a video, but I have done that. But the problem that you get when you rewire systems and you trick them to doing things that, you know, they're not necessarily meant to do, is that other people coming behind you are going to be confused when they try to troubleshoot that system, because electrically something doesn't make sense. So while it is certainly possible, there's a couple different methods you could do it to trick the system. You could also run a relay from the roof, depending on where the defrost clock is. So that way, if it goes into defrost, you know, it just depends. So let's see, one of my videos, I don't have it shown, but the system has a smart controller, right? So it has a key to therm temp plus defrost controller. So the temperature controller is the defrost clock. In that situation, there was no way to wire it to trick the system because the temperature controller shut off. Basically, it turned the system off when it went into defrost, so there's really no way to trick it. If I had a standalone defrost clock in that situation, you could definitely, you know, wire it in a way so that way it would run. So it is possible, but you just got to be careful. You know, you don't want to confuse anybody else. And I just saw a super chat come through. Peter Smart, thank you so very much for that super chat, bud. You are amazing. Okay. Let's see. The movie I was talking about was called The Sixth Day. The Arnold Schwarzenegger one was The Sixth Day, but Multiplicity was the Michael Keaton one. I think Multiplicity was the first one, and then I think The Sixth Day was after that, if I remember right. I think. I don't know. It's been a long time. So let's see what else. How many propane-based refrigerants are there, and what are they besides R290? Joe T. So that's a good question. I don't know exactly how many propane refrigerants, but a lot of the R22 replacement refrigerants or retrofit refrigerants, they do contain a hydrocarbon component, whether it be R290 or R600. And they typically use that hydrocarbon component to try to help with oil return because R22 naturally the oil moves with the refrigerant, but when you put in some of these other refrigerants, it has a hard time moving polyester oil, and they'll add the hydrocarbon component to try to help move that along. Let's see what else. I think I just butchered that a little bit, but I think it makes sense to you guys. Let's see what else we got going on in here. What am I missing? I would have been installing mini splits in other countries on sketchy ladders in sandals at that, Alaska. I'd have been in sandals carrying mini splits up on my shoulder, climbing the ladder, you know, getting all the way up to the top, one-handing, putting a mini split up onto there. Yeah, some of those videos are nuts when you see those dudes wearing their gowns that looks like they just graduated high school and it's really dirty, and then they're just walking up a ladder in flip-flops, or they got like 2 ladders strapped together, like going up, and yeah, those things are crazy, man. Those guys are nuts. Why is it that I always use copper drains? I get these questions so many times, guys, and the whole point of these live streams is to consolidate the questions and answer them in an open form, right? So why is it that I use copper drain lines for air conditioners and for ice machines instead of using PVC? I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't like PVC, okay? PVC on the roof with the UV exposure, it gets brittle and it cracks. We have horrible UV exposure here in Southern California, and PVC drain lines won't last but a year or 2 at the most. Of course, you can paint them and do different things like that, but I'm just not a fan of them. Another thing that happens with the PVC is when guys are doing PM service and cleaning coils and stuff, they'll drag hoses across the roof and they'll get stuck on things and people will pull them. And of course, you tell your guys not to do that, but it still happens. And if there's PVC lines on the roof, they'll crack them and break the PVC lines. Same thing goes for the ice machines. Whenever I install ice machines, I typically install copper drain lines. Why? Because I've had to repair too many PVC drain lines underneath an ice machine. When the cooks get under there and try to squeegee out, they end up breaking the PVC lines, and then you're down there trying to glue it back together, and it's a nightmare. Once you go copper, unless the tweakers get up there and steal it, that copper is not going to rot away. It's there pretty much forever, you know. So the copper lasts. I just prefer using copper as much as possible. It just lasts forever. Let's see what else. Todd, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. He restores old BMWs from the 70s and 80s. Is there still a place to get R12? Yeah, you can get R12. Look on, Craigslist. Just be careful about who you're buying it from. But you're not going to buy it from typically, unless you're going to spend crazy money. But you can still get it from supply houses too. You can get a jug of R12, but I imagine you're going to spend, for an entire jug of R12, I'd have to guess you're probably going to spend $1,200-$1,300, if not more. It's going to be a lot, but you can get R12 from Craigslist and things like that. People still sell it on there, so just be cautious. Make sure it's a sealed can when you buy it and stuff. Let's see what else we got in here. Commercial and industrial for copper drains, for sure. Yeah. Even residential, when you're using PVC drain lines in the attics of residential, if you don't support it right, like, you put in a PVC drain line and it's straight and all that stuff, right? But you don't have supporters every 12 inches, it's going to sag in that attic being hot over the years, and you're going to have droops and things like that. So you got to make sure if you are going to use PVC that you secure it ridiculously good, at least every 12 inches straps, to make sure that it's not going to sag whatsoever. Let's see. Have I seen an ice machine evaporator very deteriorated? Yeah, seen lots of them, bud. Let's see what else we got in here. Yeah, see, Mr. Green says he breaks PVC lines all the time, and that's why I hate them. They just always break. Let's see. Thank you so very much, Zihao. I don't know if I'm butchering your name, but thank you so very much for that super chat. Foam or enzyme cleaner for a car evaporator coil, not dirty, but due to fan not running long enough, bacteria growth. Well, if you have bacteria growth, you definitely want to use an enzyme cleaner. You want to try to break down the bacteria. So I would strongly suggest that you look into Refrigeration Technologies' Venom Pack evaporator coil cleaner, because it does have enzymes in there that will protect that coil. So what you can do with the Refrigeration Technologies cleaner, assuming that there's nothing in there that it's going to affect, but the Venom Pack evaporator coil cleaner is microchannel, aluminum safe, all that stuff. So it's not going to hurt anything. But you spray it on, and once you've cleaned it, you can put a final spray on there, and then you don't rinse it off. You just leave it on there, and then it'll naturally rinse off from condensation, but then the enzymes will stay in place and try to help protect it from bacteria. So yeah, definitely an enzyme-based evaporator coil cleaner. Strongly suggest you look into Refrigeration Technologies evaporator cleaner. You're definitely going to like that stuff. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. If you guys have questions, Definitely put them in caps lock. So Kobach says R12 drop-ins are trash. Use the real thing. Blows ice cold. I'm going to strongly suggest that if you're dealing with restoring automotive equipment, if you're going to use the existing R12 components, I would highly suggest you stick with R12. There is alternatives to R12, but just understand that there's going to be repercussions, especially in the automotive side where you can't easily modify systems. In my opinion, your best bet is going to be to stick with the original gas unless you're going to change components completely and change it to a new refrigerant, put a new evaporator, new expansion valve, new compressor in there. But if you're going to be trying to restore existing equipment, I would strongly suggest that you stick with the original refrigerants, whether it be 12, 134, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever that other one is too, YZFF, I don't know. So many weird names on those things. Patrick Spencer, thanks so much for that super chat, bud. If I had to pick one electronic leak detector to keep in my truck for HVAC and restaurant refrigeration, what would it be? It would be the Field Piece. Which Field Piece leak detector do I use? Hold on just a second. I'll tell you. Field Piece. They have the DR82. The Field Piece DR82 is my leak detector that I love. I carry 2 leak detectors in my truck. I have the Field Piece DR82 and I have the Infocon Detect Stratus, the one with like 5 names. The Stratus is like $800. The Field Piece is like $400. And for what I deal with in restaurants every single day, the Field Piece works like identical as the Stratus. So I really like the Field Piece. It does everything I need it to do. It has a lighted tip on it. The DR82 by Field Piece. You can definitely check it out at truetechtools.com and use my offer code Big Picture and you'll get an 8% discount. It'll help you out for sure. All right, let's see what else we got going on in here. What am I missing? Would Evap Plus be sufficient? Small area, so aiming for a no rinse solution. Yeah, Evap Plus is fine. That's by Refrigeration Technologies too. It's the same thing as the Venom Pack cleaner. It works just fine, man. Yeah, that would be amazing. It would work great. What's the longest I have worked on a single call? 3 days, 2 weeks on a single call. Well, like back-to-back time, like probably 15, 16 hours on a job doing something. But as far as like, you know, coming back and equipment, you know, doing things, probably like 3-4 days. I don't do any installation work really very much. So 3-4 days worth of work for one particular job. But like as far as consecutive time, probably 15, 16 hours would be the time that I've worked on one consecutive job. Is Field Piece my go-to for HVAC tools or do I differ on brands? Seth, it really depends. I use a lot of Field Piece products, but I'm not going to say that every one of their products is the best in the world. But the tools that I use, majority of the new stuff that they're making for sure, I really, really lean towards Field Piece. But there's other stuff. You know, I have Fluke meters, but I use the Field Piece SC480 as my go-to. But I mean, I have a Fluke, couple different Fluke meters that I keep, you know, as extras in my van. I have other components that aren't Field Piece, but they do make very high quality products. It really helps too that Field Piece is located here in Southern California with me, so it's really convenient. If I ever have any warranty issues or anything happens, I usually just take it over there and they'll help me out. And they'll do that for everybody. It's not just because I'm anybody special. Let's see what else we got going on in here. What am I missing? That's good. Okay, I'm going to get to my list of things. When I talk in my videos, someone asked me, actually a few people have asked me this, am I really, really on call all the time? And the answer to that is kind of yes. Okay. So in my situation right now, I am operating with 2 service technicians, including myself. So I'm one service technician and I have one other service technician. Then I have an apprentice and then I have a guy that does maintenances and PM work and stuff like that and installs. Okay. So right now I have 2 guys that are capable of being on call, myself including. Okay. Now I'm operating my company still as if I had 5 service technicians. Okay. So I never wanted to change the rotation as I lost service techs. So I'm still on a 5-week rotation. Okay. If that makes sense. And my other service tech is on call for 1 week. Okay. I'm going to explain the on-call, but let's just for ease, I'm on call 4 weeks. He's on call 1 week. Okay. So I'm almost on call 24/7. Now, our on-call schedule is a little bit different. I've kind of explained this before, but we do a rotating schedule. And the most that one person, one particular call is going to be on call is for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay. We do a rotating schedule. So when I say on call, I mean Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then every other technician in the rotation is going to have 1 day during the week. Okay. So one person's Monday, one person's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then one guy has Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the next week it rotates. So you're never on call for the same day every week. Now, because I take 4 of the on-call shifts, I'm on call, constantly, all the time. So yes, I am on call, and we are a 24/7 service company. We're there to fix the equipment when it breaks. Okay. Of course, I try to prioritize calls, and I'm not going to go out for stupid stuff, but we do get emergency calls at 2 in the morning. About once every 6 months, we get a call where I'm working till 2 or 3 in the morning, sometimes longer. It does happen. So, why don't I just simply hire new employees or raise my rates or whatever? It's not that easy to hire people right now, and it takes time. And again, as in the beginning, I talked about this too. I'm not going to hire out of desperation, okay? My stubbornness, it is what it is, but I'm just not going to hire out of desperation. Like I said, I've done it in the past, and it just bit me in the butt. So we're just going to train the apprentice slow and steady. When he gets there, we'll get him into a van, and he'll start doing service calls, and then I'll hire a new apprentice, and we'll just slowly keep doing it. And I'm going to do my best to keep these employees, because the reason why I'm in the situation I'm in right now is because I wasn't running things right, and I let things get out of hand, and I lost 3 employees at the same time. I think 3. I think so. Because at the time, I lost a few employees at the same time, and it's my fault because, I wasn't paying attention to the needs of those guys, and they moved on, and life happens. So all I can do is try to clean up the mess from that. All right. Who is my favorite band, best live concert? That's a great question. So the best live concert that I've ever been to for the local Southern California guys was at the Hollywood Bowl. It was a summer night. The acoustics at the Hollywood Bowl are amazing, right? And I saw 30 Seconds to Mars. 30 Seconds to Mars at the Hollywood Bowl, and my gosh, that concert was insane. It's so memorable. I'll never forget that one. The second best concert that I ever saw was, again, 30 Seconds to Mars, but this time they headlined the concert with Linkin Park. It was Linkin Park and 30 Seconds to Mars. It was at the Irvine Meadows Amphitheater before they closed it. That was the second best, and AFI opened that show. That was a great, great show. Seen lots of other great concerts too, but those two stand out for sure as the best. But Hollywood Bowl, I don't think anybody could ever replace. You know what? I've always wanted to go to Red Rocks. And one of these days I'm going to do a concert at Red Rock, but I've heard that one's amazing too, as far as the natural acoustics. But yeah, that's a great one, man. Zach Brown Band, I've seen them once or twice, though. They're also a great concert, man. If you guys haven't been to Zach Brown Band, I miss concerts, man. I want to go so bad right now. Peter Smart, thanks so much for that super chat, bud. Let's see. Laska, if I see you at AHR, will I sign your face? No. That is just so weird. I know you're joking, but oh my gosh, I don't know about the whole signing things. That's just so weird. I'm just a dude. It's hard for me to do that. If you guys don't already know, I plan on being at the AHR trade show in, the end of January in Las Vegas. I do plan on being there. I'm going to spend some time at the Sporlin booth. I'm going to try to spend a couple days out there, so I'll try to schedule some kind of a meetup and things like that. So if you guys are able to go, definitely reach out to me. We'll try to figure something out. Also, for the local guys here in Southern California, I also plan on being at our local trade show, which is the iHacky trade show in Pasadena. It'll be this November sometime. I will also be there probably for a majority of the day too, so I'll talk about that once we get a little bit closer. So let's see what I'm missing in the chat right now. Let's see. First I teach you, then I lose you. That's happened many times with Apprentice, for sure. Definitely has. Have I seen ice very stuck on the evaporator? Yeah, John Deere fan. It happens sometimes, but I mean, when ice machines aren't cleaned and stuff, yeah, definitely. Metallica and Guns N' Roses back in 92. That would have been a good one because that was Guns N' Roses in their heyday, for sure. Let's see. Did I go to a trade school? Yes, I went to Mount San Antonio or Mount Sac Community College in Walnut, California. I'm still 2 classes shy of finishing to get like a certificate. I need technical math and I need a welding class, for sure. You just saw 3 Doors Down and Seether 2 weeks ago in Reno. Wow, dude, 3 Doors Down would be a good one too. That'd be a really, really good one. Who else did I see? I saw Oh gosh, there was one that I saw in Vegas. I'll forget. I can't remember right now. Almond milk or oat milk for my morning coffee? It's almond milk for sure, man. For sure. Am I going to live stream AHR? You know, Joshua, I was actually just talking to my friend Adam about this. AHR, there's so many people there that there's actually not very good cell phone service. So I'm talking with Sporlin right now, and if they can set up to have internet, high-speed internet at their booth, then I will likely live stream from the Sporlin booth. But as far as walking around live streaming, I don't think it's going to work out very well because the last time AHR was in Orlando, they had 10,000 people there over 3 days. So, I mean, even if you evenly divided that amongst 3 days, that's still a lot of people per day. And if you think about the cell phone towers, if they even have cell phone service inside the conference buildings or convention center buildings, it's going to be hard to get actual good cell phone service to be able to stream. So I don't think that's really going to happen. But I mean, if I could, I would for sure. Let's see. I already answered that one. Mount SAC. That's right. It's MTSAC, Mount SAC. It's Mount San Antonio Community College. So SAC is technically like a weird acronym, SAC. You saw Bad Religion at the Whiskey in Hollywood. That's cool. Rolling Stones in 88. Right on, man. No, I did not take a marketing class. Let's see what else we got in here. How do I milk an almond? Just Google it. Go to YouTube and say, how do you milk an almond? And you'll see there's like a little machine that they put the almond in, and then it squeezes the almond just right without hurting the almond, because you don't want to hurt the almond, right? You just want to squeeze the milk out of it, you know, and go from there. And, oh, God damn it. I was going to say something, but I can't. So I'm not going to go there because I'll ruin my nice, clean, shiny. Ask me about almond milk on the overtime show and we'll talk about it a little bit more. Okay. All right. Do I want to drive? I want to drive the truck. You're looking very stylish today, Molly. Very stylish. I don't know what that's from. What is that from? That sounds familiar. Bad compressor and low charge in residential R22. Should you replace the whole system? It really depends on the customer. Honestly, I mean, for an R22 system, you're going to spend a lot of money, and that's an older system. But I will say this, that the R22 system was made with higher quality than what the new system is going to be made with. But at the same time, it's going to be harder and harder to get the parts and components and replacement coils and things like that. So, you know, I mean, depending on the customer's budget, it might be in their best interest to go ahead and replace the equipment and upgrade it to a new refrigerant. But just understand something, the shelf life on a newer system is going to be 10 to 15 years, if that, versus some of the old R22 systems where some people saw 20, 30 plus years out of them. You're not going to get no 20, 30 plus years out of a newer system for sure. So, but I mean, you know, if the customer's budget allows, then yeah, I would try to talk them into replacing that equipment, you know, depending on the shape of it for sure. Let me see what else we got in here. What else do we have here? Do some troubleshooting 101 videos. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a possibility. It's something that I've thought about. It's just hard. It's really easy to do the existing videos that I do. All right. So something that I wanted to talk about, and I talked about it in my recent video, and I'm going to go over it a little bit more in this, is the new AWEF compliance requirements. So annual walk-in efficiency factor, AWEF is the acronym that represents it. We call them AWEF units. All the new refrigeration walk-in units, so it's probably going to be like 1 horsepower, 3/4 horsepower and bigger, are probably going to be AWEF compliant equipment. With that being said, that equipment is meant to operate at lower condensing temperatures, lower pressures, okay, even if it's on 404 or something like that. And oftentimes they're going to come installed with extra components that are going to drop the head pressure down in the wintertime and the summertime. So like I explained in my recent video, if you guys are replacing a condensing unit on an existing system, you really need to look into the expansion valve sizing, because with the new AWEF compliant refrigeration equipment that's pushing out across the nation right now, you need to be careful, because you run the risk of not being able to properly feed refrigerant through your expansion valve if it's not sized right in the wintertime. Okay, so keep that in mind, guys, when you're doing condensing unit swaps. I haven't seen a single supply house educating the customers on this stuff yet, and I feel like we need a lot more of this out there. People need to understand, if I go buy a 1 horsepower condensing unit right now, it's an AWEF compliant unit, it's going to have a head pressure control valve that floats the head pressure down to like 100 to 150 psi. And if you're operating 404 equipment, that's going to be a problem in the wintertime. You're going to have some issues. Okay, that head pressure is going to be way too low, and you're not going to have a proper pressure differential across the expansion valve. So keep that in mind, guys. If you're swapping condensing units and using existing evaporators, you need to investigate the expansion valve sizing. I talked about it in my recent video, and I'll say it again. Sporlan has a tech document, 500-10-AWEF. You guys can go to the Sporlan, just look up AWEF factors for TEVs, Sporlan, whatever, and it'll help you to size your expansion valves for the new AWEF compliant refrigeration equipment. So understand, you need to make sure that your equipment's sized appropriately, okay? On 448A, do you need to have liquid injection for the head of the compressor? The answer is most of the time, yes. On low temperature equipment, you need to have some sort of liquid injection to help cool the compressor off when you're working with 448A. So walk-in freezers and things like that, they should have liquid injection on them, on scroll compressors especially, because they are going to overheat and have issues in the summertime for sure. You're going to run into real issues with that equipment. So you definitely need to have liquid injection as much as possible on those, okay? On my walk-in freezers, you know, where I have these ice-up issues consistently, why am I not installing curtains, strip curtains on the equipment? So that way, if they're leaving the door open, at least there's a strip curtain kind of helping a little bit, right? The reason why I don't install strip curtains is because none of my customers like them. They typically don't want them. I try to install them as much as possible, but to be honest with you, most of the cooks, they rip the strip curtains off. The managers aren't watching them 24/7, and the cooks, they drive them nuts, and they end up bending them, breaking them, ripping them, and the customers don't see the return on investment. Of course, strip curtains are a good thing to have on your refrigeration equipment, but the customers just don't like them for the most part. So it's what the customers want is what they get. When I'm working on my walk-ins, air conditioners, and I show messed up condenser coils, messed up evaporator coils, why do I not spend a bunch of time trying to straighten out the fins? They do make fin combs. I keep them in my truck. Most of the time, I'm not going to make a video showing me how to use a fin comb because fin combs take forever and that wouldn't make for good video material. Majority of the times, I've tried to straighten out fins, but once you straighten out the fins on a condenser on a rooftop package unit once, the fins are already damaged and they're instantly going to bend back to the shape that they were. So you need to be extra careful if you ever do have to straighten the fins, because once you hit it with a water hose again, those fins will bend flat really quick, a lot easier than they ever did the first time. So I do straighten out fins, but I just don't really show it on video very often because it just makes for poor video material. Something that I was talking about in the chat with someone was giving me some tips about spray foam, on how to save the spray foam to make it last longer. I'm going to tell you right now, spray foam and silicone are a one-time use in my service company. I don't want anybody having cans of spray foam that are already opened. Spray foam is a one-time use. It gets sold to the customer and thrown in the trash, because if you've ever seen a can of spray foam leak out in a truck or silicone leak out, it makes a mess and it's a nightmare. So with me, the way I do it, spray foam is a one-time use. It's added to the materials cost, and if there's any left in the can, it gets thrown in the trash. I do not want that in any of my service vehicles already open for sure. See what else we got going on in the chat. Let me see. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else in there. Yeah, guys, please smash the thumbs up button. It definitely helps out the stream, okay? Yeah, 1 hour fin comb ASMR video. Yeah, not my style at all. Have I seen ice very stuck on an ice machine evaporator? John Deere fan, yes, I have. It's typically caused by a dirty evaporator. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Do I provide my apprenticeship tools, or do I give them tool allowances? Seth, so my technicians are required, whether they be an apprentice or whether it be a fully experienced technician, as a service company, I provide the big fancy tools. And Seth, actually, I realized there was a second part to your question that I didn't answer. As far as buying tools, Seth, I would strongly encourage you to not spend a bunch of money buying tools right now, okay? Because depending on where you're going to be working, every company has different policies. There's some service companies that don't want you bringing any tools. There's some service companies that want you to bring all your tools. Or like me, I'm a service company that I only require the service technician or the apprentice to bring a tool bag with hand tools in it, to bring a set of service gauges, a cordless drill, and that's pretty much it. Everything else, like the torches, the vacuum pumps, the recovery machines, the nitrogen regulators, all the big stuff I provide as a business. So I only require my guys to bring the consumable tools, basically the stuff they're going to lose all the time and break. That's what I require them to bring. But if they need any high tech, fancy tools, I provide those. So with that being said, before you get in, Seth, I wouldn't buy a crap ton of tools, man. I'd kind of go feel out some of the local companies where you think you're going to work. You'd be surprised, man. Everybody's looking for service technicians right now. So if you went right now and started talking to local companies, if you can, or even start emailing them, you'd be surprised how many of them are going to jump at you and want you to come do an apprenticeship with them for sure. And with that being said, you can ask them. There's nothing wrong with calling the companies and saying, hey, I'm about to get out of the service. I'm interested in HVAC. You know, if and when I was to come work for you, what are the tools you provide? And call all the local companies that you can think of and get kind of an idea. That way, you know, okay, these all guys require me, or all these guys do this or that, you know? So trust me, bud, you're going to be able to get into the trade for sure. Don't worry about that. But yeah, be a little leery about spending. Just don't blow your wad on a bunch of tools right now until you find out what it is that you're going to need. So let's see what else we got in here. What am I missing in here? I already answered that one. Yeah, I know spray foam has a reusable can, but I'm still not using that crap. That stuff will still leak in my van. They got the stupid little tip on the top of the spray foam. Trash. I don't care, man. That stuff, if that stuff just goes off in one of my vans, it's going to ruin everything. So let's see what else. Has a customer ever hit on me? Yeah, I've had that happen in the very beginning when I was a lot younger. And that was very awkward. I didn't know how to respond to it. I've had waitresses like leave little notes in my toolbox and stuff, or tool bag, you know, or bucket at the time. Yeah, it was a little awkward. I didn't even know how to take that. I was engaged at the time anyway, so I ain't getting into any of that strange. Let's see. Has a cut already answered that one? Can you get into HVACR without dealing with ductwork? Joey, actually you can. I mean, for the most part, it just depends. If you get into the commercial side and you do service work, you're going to be doing very limited ductwork kind of work. But I mean, what is it that you're afraid about ductwork? You know, I mean, I'm going to be going to do a duct job tomorrow, but it's very minuscule, just changing a bunch of registers, resecuring flex duct to some cans. It's not going to be anything crazy, you know, sealing them up with some Pookie and stuff like that. Let's see. Can you get into H? I already answered that one. What else do we got going on in here? Ever been locked in a walk-in? Nope, never gotten locked in a walk-in. I'd get that thing disconnected and I'd have no problem. In SoCal, do HVAC supply stores sell to homeowners? Some of them do, some of them don't. It just depends. You need to call around. Let's see what else we got going on in here. In Cali, you need to oh yeah, in most of California, there's a few supply houses that'll sell to customers though. But most of the time, the customers aren't going to get a break. If they sell to the general public, they mark those prices up way high so they can make a profit. So let's see what else we got going on in here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and, thanks, bud. I really appreciate it, man. HVAC dude. I appreciate you too, man. Miss your videos, man. All right, so why doesn't the restaurants rent refrigerated trucks for the installs? I've only rented a refrigerated truck. Well, first off, I'm not going to rent a refrigerated truck, okay? Because the liability falls on me if I'm the one facilitating that rental. Rental trucks are going to need fuel. They're going to need technicians to come out there consistently and top off the fuel while the rental truck is there. So not really something I want to do. I usually push that on the restaurants. If the restaurants want to facilitate that and have people drop them off and things like that, then that's great. But I don't even want to get into the liability of renting those trucks. Just not my thing. On a walk-in freezer, we were discussing something in my YouTube comments about drain lines, and I want to make it clear that in my recent video when I replaced all that equipment, I had a drain line running out of the box. There's a trap on the outside of that box. Whenever I have walk-in equipment, I trap the drain lines, okay? In a perfect world, we want that trap to be on the outside of the equipment, not in the conditioned space, okay? Or not in the walk-in itself. A walk-in cooler wouldn't be as critical, but a walk-in freezer, you definitely do not want to trap in a walk-in freezer because there's constant water sitting in there, and even if you have a drain heater on that, it's still going to have freeze-up issues. But on walk-in freezers especially, there's always a drain line trap on the outside. as much as possible to try to prevent any warm air to come in through the drain line. Because if you think about it, that warm air is going to come in right underneath the evaporator coil and have a nice place to start building condensation and frost on that evaporator coil. So you always want to have a trap on the outside of the box as much as possible on that. What was the rubber cover? I already answered that one. Okay. When it comes to 2-speed walk-in fans, I already talked about those ones. When it comes to doing brazing with nitrogen, first and foremost, let me say this right now. I am not a perfect service technician. I do not always braze with nitrogen, but I try as much as possible to do so when I can. Today, I worked on a reach-in cooler, and I did not braze with nitrogen because it's not practical. Guess what? When I worked on that reach-in cooler today, I pulled the evacuation through Schrader's with my standard field piece S-man gauges because it was such a small refrigerator. It wasn't practical to put my giant vacuum hoses. There's no room for some of that stuff on those tiny refrigerators, okay? So with that being said, I don't always braze with nitrogen, but I try as much as possible, especially on bigger systems where I'm going to be doing a lot of brazing. Of course, your dryers are meant to catch contaminants. They're going to catch a lot of the carbon buildup and different things like that from brazing without nitrogen, right? Because you're going to have carbon buildup inside the system. But I try as much as possible to continue to braze with nitrogen because, yes, the dryers potentially would catch that stuff, but what if they don't? And also, why do I want to contaminate the dryer with a bunch of carbon buildup when it's really meant to be there to catch moisture in the system? So the more of the carbon crap that it catches, the more that the first inlet screen on that dryer is going to get plugged up with that, the faster the dryer itself is going to plug up. When it comes to the new fancy electronic stuff with the EEVs and things like that, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You braze with nitrogen with that stuff because the openings and the orifices on those EEVs, trust me, you do not want to plug those up. Most modern thermostatically controlled expansion valves are going to have an inlet strainer on them, but on some of these EEVs, they may or may not have a strainer. So you want to be very careful about contaminating systems with EEVs for sure, okay? All right, let me see what we got going on in the chat and what I'm missing. Thoughts on RX11 Flush? RX11 Flush is a liquid refrigerant solvent that is put into the system, and it's meant to flush the system out. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something, and I've said this many times before. Most people don't even know how to use RX11 Flush, okay? Most supply houses sell it ridiculously, by the can and just throwing it on every compressor install. And most people don't even know that when they're using the RX11 Flush, they're not even using it right, okay? If you're going to use RX11 Flush, first off, I have used it many times in my career. I don't really use it anymore. But the proper way to use RX11 Flush is if you're going to clean out a suction line, okay? First off, you never want to add RX11 Flush to a system that has compressor oil still in the system. So if you have a compressor that you're not replacing, you do not want to put RX11 Flush in there because the potential is that solvent can get trapped in the oil. So you want it to be in a system that does not have a compressor currently in it, and you're just flushing the lines out, okay? Even still, you have a lot of potential to have that solvent get trapped in the system and become a contaminant or a non-condensable later, okay? But if you are going to use RX11 Flush, let's say the easiest way, you have a residential house that has an evaporator 2 stories up in the attic, and you have a condenser down at the ground, right? And you're going to flush the suction line, okay? So you put RX11 Flush up on the roof or up in the attic, you put it into the line, you fill up that suction line, and you let it vent out the suction line where the condenser unit's at, right? And then you push nitrogen through the system. That's actually not the right way to do it. What you're supposed to do if you're going to use RX11 Flush is where it comes out, you're supposed to create a restriction. So you're supposed to pinch that suction line way down till there's a tiny opening. Then you're supposed to fill the suction line with RX11 Flush. Then you're supposed to push the nitrogen. And by creating that restriction, it allows that RX11 Flush to scrub the lines and have a pressure point at which it has to squeeze out at the end, a restriction, okay? That's the right way to use RX11 Flush. If you don't do it that way, then it's really not cleaning the lines, all right? And it could potentially not completely scrub the line and just run through the suction line. But there's always the potential that solvents are going to be left in the system, and those solvents potentially can create problems. So that's why I typically don't use any kind of a flush, not whatsoever. I just clean the system with nitrogen. That's it. Okay. So no flushes for me, just simply nitrogen, put a good filter dryer, suction line dryer, and do frequent dryer changes if you have a contaminated system. I don't even use acid neutralizer. None of those either. So just refrigerant and oil is the only things that I'm really putting in the system. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Giovanni, thanks so much for that super sticker, bud. Let's see what else we got in here. Let me see what else we got going on in here. Have I ever worked on RBI boilers? No, I don't do any boiler work. Have I fixed my own HVAC system at my house or my shop? Yes, many times. All kinds of stuff. Fan motors, equipment swaps, different stuff like that. Any bad luck? Told you 5 months out. I don't know what you're asking on that one. RX-11 is awesome. I don't know what you're asking me on that one, bud. Let's see what else. Any bad luck? No. What else do we got going on in here? What am I missing? You had a can of Armaflex glue get loose in your tool bag, ruined everything. Peter, I had a can of Armaflex glue tip over in my van. I will say one thing about Armaflex glue is it tipped over in my van, got all on my shelf, and then ran down to the floor, but the Armaflex glue dried, and I was able to peel it off. So that was pretty cool. I buy the black Armaflex glue now, though, too. If you guys didn't already know, Armaflex actually makes a black one, and it works much better when you're working with like the black Armaflex because it's not that weird-ass yellow color. So I like that a lot better. EEV. Have I had any bad luck with the EEVs? Yeah, I've had the solenoid coils or the coils fail on the EEVs, but I've never had a valve fail. Just the coil fail. That's the only bad luck I've had on them so far. So, let's see. I used Acid Scavenger in the beginning of my career all the time. And let me preface this with saying I don't use flush and I don't use acid neutralizers anymore. But to be completely fair to all of the, and I'm not judging anybody for using them either, by the way, okay? Whatever floats your boat. But I never had any bad stuff that I knew about, okay? I never had a system that all of a sudden the compressor failed because I've used Acid Scavenger or anything like that. I just choose not to use that stuff anymore. But I used it for a majority of my career, and honestly, I've never really known of any bad repercussions from it. So I'm not talking crap on the product. I just choose not to put anything in the system that doesn't belong in there anymore. So let's see what else we got. Have I seen a walk-in freezer floor covered in frost? Yeah, many times. Customers go in there, they get it wet or drains plug up. Definitely. Good question. What kind of wristwatch do I have? I have... in 2 of my videos, so this is one. This is my old watch. It's actually broken. But this is my new watch is a Galaxy Watch 3. Okay, so the watch itself just fits into a case. So this right here is a SUP case watch band. So my new, again, this one's broken, but my new watch is a Galaxy Watch 3 with the same band. It's just a black SUP case band. Makes it look like a fancy G-Shock watch, but it's really just a band that goes around the watch, and that's it. Protects it, makes it look super nice on your wrist and stuff. So yeah, Galaxy Watch 3 with a SUP case band. That's what I use in all my videos, so that you guys are always seeing. Giovanni, thanks so much for that super chat, bud. You said you work in a high-rise apartment and work with water source heat pumps and cooling towers. Want to transition into HVAC? Can I point you in the right direction of going into HVAC? Giovanni, send me an email, bud. hvacrvideos@gmail.com. But yeah, definitely. You can get into HVAC whether you want to do commercial work or refrigeration work. Every company out there is hiring almost anybody with a pulse right now. So if you have any experience doing that kind of stuff, I mean, if you want to continue to do water source heat pumps and cooling towers, there's companies that specialize in that kind of stuff. So you'd have an in with that. That's its own little niche within our trade, is doing like high-rise buildings and stuff like that. There's so many cleaning strainers, cleaning fouled condensers. You got all kinds of work doing that. So definitely send me an email, Giovanni, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. What's the deepest vacuum I've ever got? Like 200 microns. I mean, true vacuum. I don't really try for anything lower than 200 microns. I typically try to pull 200 microns, and that's a true vacuum reading, by the way, but 200 microns on walk-in freezer systems, and then Typically, you don't want the decay to rise above 500 to 1,000. And then on refrigeration systems, about 500 microns. Air conditioning systems, about 500 microns. So, thoughts on Stay-Brite 8 and a turbo torch? Joshua, a lot of people like it, but you're not going to convince me otherwise with Stay-Brite 8. I've fixed too many leaks with low temperature solder. Stay-Brite 8 is just a brand name, but it's just a low temperature solder. And I fixed way too many leaks on evaporator distributors, especially on Russell equipment, because they used to use their cold zone equipment. They used to use it on their expansion valve distributor end bells, and we would constantly be fixing leaks on them. And the problem, if you're fixing leaks on a low temp solder, is when you get solders to mix. So if you use like Stay-Brite 8, right, and you solder in the distributor bell, and you have a leak years later and the technician comes in, he doesn't carry that stuff. That's usually my case. All I have is silver solder. Well, when you try to mix silver solder with a low temperature solder, in my experience, they don't mix very well, and they tend to, it may work for a while, but then it starts leaking again. So I don't like using low temperature solders. I like brazing. All that I use is I braze with oxyacetylene. I use 15% silver solder. And then if I'm going to work on any dissimilar metals, I use 56% silver solder. That's it. Okay. 15% brazing rods, I guess I should say. It's 15% solder, silver, and then the rest of it's like other alloys or something. I don't know what's in it. Do I know why they stopped using R22? R22 had chlorine in it, and they wanted to get away from the chlorinated gases. Or no, is that 12 that had chlorine? I don't know. But it's global warming crap. It's bad for the environment, these refrigerants. I mean, essentially, if the hippies all had it their way, we wouldn't have any air conditioning or refrigeration, because they would find a reason to say water's bad too. So who knows? Let me see what else we got going in here. Any tips for working on R600 units? Lock rings are not working for you. Yeah, Jason, I don't use any of the lock ring stuff. Lock ring, the Vulcan lock ring or whatever that's called, that stuff kind of scares me, because if you watch the process, again, I've never used it, so this is just, you know, me watching from a video, but if you watch the process of using the lock rings, what scares me the most about it is that fluid you have to put on the line, because you have to get that all in there, and I'm worried about that contaminating the system, that blue crap or whatever that is that you're supposed to put on there. So working on R600 systems, just braze them, man. Just braze them, and they'll be sealed forever as long as you do a good braze joint. That's my opinion on the matter. Pinch it off, weld it, do whatever you have to do. I was working on an R290 system today, and I had to, connect to the system with gas in it. So I used my pinch off tool, brazed on a fitting, rounded out the pinch so I can access the system. I mean, it's not that big of a deal once you do it enough. Feel free to send me an email if I didn't answer enough of your questions. So... do I ever get free food or drinks from the places I work at? Yeah, I get offered free food all the time, but honestly, I don't take it very much, because most of my family wants to go out to dinner when I get home. And if I accept free food from my customers, the last thing I want to do is eat out when I get home. So I stopped accepting free food from the customers. So that way, when I go home on the weekends or at night and my family wants to go out to dinner, I still want to go out to dinner, you know? So that's just my personal choice. But what's the latest time I went to an emergency service call? I mean, all hours of the night. I've probably been to an emergency service call at every hour you can think of. It just depends, man. When it breaks, it breaks. When I used to do my hospital customer, they'd call me all the time. The morgue unit's down. We got a 4-passenger that's full of bodies, and it's getting warm, you know? And it's like, okay, there's one. I think I've told this story before, but they called me one time and they were like, yeah, we got a 4-passenger morgue cooler down. And I go, okay, is it loaded? And he goes, yeah, it's loaded full of bodies. And I go, okay, they all have to be out before I can work on it. And he's like, it was in the middle of the night. And the maintenance guy was like, well, what am I supposed to do with them? And I'm like, I don't know, bro, but I can't work on it. How do you expect me to work on that cooler when it's full of bodies? Like, it's not going to happen. And these are 4-passengers. It's not a walk-in cooler. It's just a reach-in cooler with gurneys in it. So I'm like, no, those have to be out so I can access the system. I still to this day don't know where he put 4 bodies. But I could only imagine the poor lady in the walk-in cooler in the kitchen or something, like walked in like, who knows? I don't know where they put those bodies, but they weren't in there when I got there. And I fixed it, but that was like a 4 a.m. call. I mean, pretty much every hour of the day I've been to a service call. Let's see what else we got going on in here. Does a restriction on one side of the system versus the other affect the pressure readings? Yeah, because the system is fluid. It's a whole system. Suction, is affected by discharge, discharge is affected by suction. It works as a whole. So if there's something wrong, like a restriction on one side, it's going to affect the way the entire system works for sure. So yeah, it's all works together. Is there any HVAC company that would hire you when you are still in high school? Joshua, the problem with hiring you when you're still in high school is that HVAC is considered a dangerous trade. Any of the construction trades in general are considered dangerous. So if you're under the age of 18, it's going to be really hard to get your work permit approved to work for any kind of a construction trade. Once you're older than 18, you're probably good to go. But there's going to be a lot of restrictions, and most companies aren't going to want to deal with those restrictions hiring someone under the age of 18. Okay. And it's just because of the nature of our trade and the dangers involved. So yeah, once you're 18, yeah, but under 18, not really, bud. But you can go to school right now. You can take night classes at your community college, right, while you're still in high school and get your trade school done. You could take night classes, do all that stuff, and then that way when you turn 18, you've already got trade school done and you can hit the ground running, bro. That's the best way to do it if you can. So, see what else we got going on in here. Low side restriction has low suction and high discharge. So low side, I don't know if you're answering a question or if that's new. Anthony, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. I really, really appreciate it, man. That's awesome. I'm glad this is working out for you for the supermarket. Yeah, he cremated him, Jason Johnson. That's funny. Right on. Well, guys, I think it's time I wrap it up. I'd really, really appreciate all your guys' support. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for all the super chats and stuff. You guys are very awesome. This is really cool. Yeah, you know, I guess that's it. I really appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and cue up the outro music, and we will catch you guys on, if I can do this right, the next one.